1 Corinthians 13 is so much more than just a wedding passage. It actually gives us the definition of God love. And so that's what we're looking at all this week on the devotional coming up. Hello and welcome once again to the One Verse Daily Devotional. My name's Matt, and we look at just one simple verse every single day to grow a little bit deeper in our faith. And so I'm glad that you're with me here today. This week we are diving into 1 Corinthians 13. And no, we're not going to a wedding, all right? It can be used for so much more. I mean, it's great for weddings. I used it for my wedding. But it gives us, 1 Corinthians 13 gives us the definition of God love, of perfect love, of what's known as agape love. Maybe you've heard that term from the original Greek language. It is this unselfish, perfect love. It's honestly, it's God love. And it's the goal that we all want to reach for. It's not easy to attain, but it's our bullseye that we want to aim for. And so that's what we're looking at this week, this amazing paragraph right in the middle of 1 Corinthians 13 that lays out exactly what God love, perfect love really is, and how it kind of plays out in our life, what it looks like and what it doesn't look like. Yesterday, we were in 1 Corinthians 13:4, and we found out that the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is pride. And so love is not proud, because pride looks to puff itself up and to point to itself, where love is always more concerned about the needs of others. Well, we're moving on today. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 5 says, "It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs." Another great verse, diving in even more. We learned yesterday that love is patient, love is kind. Now we get that it does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. That kind of goes right along with that whole conversation about pride. See, pride would put down someone else to make itself look better. We mentioned that yesterday, right? Pride obviously is self-seeking. So we don't want to be proud. We don't want to boast ourselves. We don't want to be self-seeking, right? We don't want to spend all of our time trying to make ourselves look better, especially at the expense of someone else. That's the opposite of love. 1 Corinthians 13 tells us. No, love isn't self-seeking, and it doesn't dishonor others. It honors others, right? It seeks for the good of others. That's what love is. But I find in this like list of definitions, there's always one or two that like really jump out at me. Like at first I'm like, well, I don't really dishonor others, right? You might be like, yeah, I'm not going around like bashing others and trying to make myself look better. Like pride is dangerous, Matt. You're right. That totally pride is dangerous. I don't really feel like I struggle with pride. I'd be right there with you. All right. I try to live with humility, put others first, love others. I get that. And then it says, is not easily angered, keeps no record of wrongs. And then I want to break down in tears. Not really, but man, it's hard not to think about like marriage, right? And you're like, oh, it keeps no record of wrongs, because I thought that was one of the tactics in marriage. I thought that's what you were supposed to do, is like, I'm going to just kind of hold on to this one. I'm going to store this one away for like a later fight, so I can be like, well, yeah, well, you remember when you did this, right? I think husbands and wives are both guilty of that. And so we might think we're doing really good. Yeah, like, yeah, man, Matt, this is so good about love. Man, you're right. Put others first. I don't dishonor others. Then it's like, is not easily angered. And I'm like, oh man. Like, how many times do I snap at my kids during the week? And I love them with all my heart, right? And then 1 Corinthians 13, like, I would think that, like, no, I have, like, perfect love for my kids. And then 1 Corinthians 13, like, sets that bar so high. It's like, yeah, well, it's not easily angered. And I'm like, yeah, I snapped at my kids for, like, taking, like, food into the living room. I'm like, what? You did it again. You know the rule. Like, it's not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Like those two for me. I don't know about you. Maybe you are dealing with the pride thing or whatever. Like, I think each one of these verses has an area that we can like improve upon. And the not easily angered and the keeping no record of wrongs is like, oh, I got a long way to go. Oh, I got a long way to go, especially when it comes to how I show love to my children, how I show love to my wife, in marriages and other relationships with friendships. Like, we have to remember that true love, if you're really caring for someone else and looking out for their needs better and more, you're not going to get easily angered, because that's sure not going to help them, right? Anger doesn't really help anything. It doesn't help when you snap and yell and raise your voice. It doesn't help when someone is trying to improve and get better. Remember, love is patient. We have to be patient with others as they grow and develop, because exactly that is how God treats us, right? He's kind and patient with us. And so we should be patient with others. And so if I'm like having this record of wrongs and I'm getting to an argument with my spouse and I'm like, oh yeah, well, you always do this. And you're using those infamous 100% statements. You always do this. You never do this, right? Or remember, 6 months ago or last year when this happened. That's not being patient either. And it's not being kind. It all fits in together, but man, it gets so specific. Not easily angered, keeps no record of wrongs. I don't know about you, but I could really spend some time in prayer and reflection on how to improve in those two areas in my life. The foundation of all these verses is simply, this is how God loves us. And if this is how God loves us, well, for one, thank the Lord, right? That he doesn't have a record of wrongs. And so if that's the case, then that's for sure what I owe others as well. I told you it was a lot more than just a wedding passage, didn't I? You weren't prepared for where we were going to go this week. And we're only halfway through this paragraph in 1 Corinthians 13. So again, I'm glad you're here. This is awesome. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.